I'm going to tell you why having one centralized domain and website is better for your SEO in most instances than having multiple domains and multiple sites, and why it streamlines the process and will ultimately improve your SEO. So let's dive into it. Okay, let's start by understanding authority score. And I'm going to go through my website, themediacaptain.com, to just help you understand this better. Right now, I'm using the software SEMrush, and our authority score is a 33. Authority score is how many authoritative backlinks link back to your website. So for the Media Captain, over the years, we have gotten backlinks from entrepreneurs.com. We've been quoted in local publications like 10 TV, the Columbus Dispatch. A lot of different marketing sites have linked back to our website. When you get those backlinks, it increases your authority score. So we have an authority score of a 33. The higher authority score that you get, the easier it becomes to start ranking if you have good content and the right structure for your site. So by having one website and one domain, when you build up that authority score, it starts to become a snowball effect, and each piece of content that you publish should, in theory, be easier to rank for. So let's continue to stick with my marketing agency as an example. We have two divisions to our agency. There is marketing and there is web design. We have one website, and I mentioned that the authority score is 33. But let's say I had this idea where I wanted to have two different websites. I wanted to have a website that just showcased our marketing expertise, and I wanted to have a website that showcased our design and development expertise. Well, if you look at this illustration here, you'll see that the authority score is then being divided between marketing and web design. So let's say I did this 10 years ago. We might have an authority score of 17 for marketing and 14 for web design. Whereas by having it, and going down below on this illustration, by having one unified website, that authority score of 33 just goes to the one site, and it creates, like I alluded to, that snowball effect. Let's move on to a client example from our agency. We work with a private equity company that acquires commercial landscaping companies. When they started with us, they had 3 commercial landscaping companies. Now they have close to 14. So what was happening with each acquisition, when they were smaller, they were keeping the WordPress site, and that was optimized for the respective local market, and that was the strategy. Well, once they got to about 10, we made the recommendation that, look, we need to have one centralized website for your brand, and we want to redirect all of the individual commercial landscaping sites into your centralized domain, because that is ultimately going to increase the authority score. And we would still build out brand pages for each of these different companies they acquire, and we would optimize them for the local market. But what's going to happen is that each page that is created on this unified site is going to rank more quickly, because we're going to be working off an authority score of 30 plus, whereas a lot of these individual landscaping companies had authority scores below 10 or maybe 11 or 12. Let's go to another example of a company that is doing this very well. So I just did a search for Columbus Dermatologist, and the second ranked result organically is Docs Dermatology. This is a larger entity that has acquired hundreds of dermatology practices. They don't have individual sites for each derm practice. They have combined all of the practices they've acquired into one centralized website. Well, let's dive into the authority score of the top ranking sites. So Docs has a 33. And by the way, when you get above 30, it is a really good authority score. Some people view it as a test, 30 out of 100, you're failing. No, 30 out of 100 is really, really good. Even if you're a local business, 10 to 20 can be solid. But so you'll see that by merging all of these sites into one, they have the highest authority score, which is helping them rank. Well, what they've done strategically then with this one website is that if you click in to the page for Columbus, they have a dedicated page showcasing all of their practices in Central Ohio. So you'll see that they have 7 different offices in Columbus, and these are individual location pages, which I'll get into a minute. And by the way, on this Columbus page, they list out all of the doctors, all of the dermatologists in Columbus to just show the overall scale of the practice. Well, now you go into Canal Winchester, and they want to rank not only for Columbus dermatologists, but they want to rank for Canal Winchester and Gahanna and all of the different suburbs that they have. Well, when they build out this page for Canal Winchester, which by the way is pretty simple, it's just listing out the doctors. They could probably optimize this better, but they're still ranking very well for that. So it's just showing you that each page that you build out, if done strategically, should rank well with one centralized website. Let's dive into an example of when a centralized cohesive site might not be the right solution. So I've told you I own an agency. I talk to a lot of businesses. I go through a lot of scenarios. Recently, I talked to the owner of a bounce house, the inflatable bounce house. You bring them to kids' birthday parties, pretty good margins on that business. He had a website for the bounce house. Well, he wanted to expand the business and he had another idea. So he bought a large LED television. Think of the ones that you bring to sporting events, political events. He invested in that. So he told me that he was building a separate website for the LED TV. And I made the recommendation, hey, this should be one cohesive site so you could leverage the existing authority score. He told me he consulted with his attorney. They have to be separate LLCs because with bounce houses, there could be more injuries and more liabilities. And so they had to be separated. So that's an instance where even though from an SEO standpoint, I made the recommendation that it should be one centralized domain, obviously for legal purposes, he couldn't do that. So it's not always the right solution going to one centralized domain, and you have to take it on a case-by-case basis, but it is what I recommend in most instances. Hopefully you found this video helpful on why in most instances it's more beneficial to have a centralized cohesive domain versus multiple domains. My name's Jason Parks. If you ever have any questions, you can contact us by visiting themediacaptain.com.